Detailed chapters. Chapter 1. Setting sail to conquer. The Athenian harbor was alive with activity, as thousands of soldiers, sailors, and spectators crowded the shore to witness the great fleet's departure. The ships were decorated with bright sails and banners, a display of Athenian might. Young men like Thrasymachus, eager for adventure, reveled in the excitement. Standing at the helm of his trireme, Damon, a veteran sailor, felt a sense of unease. Unlike the young recruits, he'd seen enough battles to know that grand visions often led to hard realities. Still, he kept his doubts to himself, joining the cheers as the fleet departed for the unknown shores of Sicily. Chapter 2. Early successes and growing doubts. The initial days in Sicily were triumphant. The Athenians took smaller towns and captured supplies, boosting their confidence. Thrasymachus and his fellow soldiers celebrated each victory, their spirits high as they advanced further inland. But Nicias, one of the generals, began to voice concerns. He saw that Syracuse was more prepared than anticipated, with fortifications that would make a direct assault challenging. Supplies dwindled faster than expected, and the promised local allies didn't materialize as planned. Nicias urged caution, but his voice was often drowned out by the younger officers, eager for rapid victory. Back in the camp, Damon shared his concerns with Thrasymachus. "I've seen this before," he warned. "We may be strong, but if we run out of supplies or face a well-prepared enemy, things could turn quickly." Thrasymachus brushed off the concern, still excited by the prospect of victory. "We are Athens," he said confidently. "Nothing can stand against us." Chapter 3. The Siege of Syracuse. As the Athenians attempted to encircle Syracuse, they built walls and fortifications. But the Syracusans fought back fiercely, their defenses bolstered by reinforcements from Sparta, led by Gylippus. The siege dragged on, supplies dwindled, and disease spread through the Athenian ranks. The once confident soldiers grew weary, and divisions among the generals worsened morale. Thrasymachus began to question the wisdom of the campaign as he saw friends fall in the endless fighting. Damon, meanwhile, considered finding a way to escape. The allure of victory was fading, replaced by a grim struggle for survival. Chapter 4. The Tide Turns. The situation worsened as the Syracusans received fresh reinforcements and launched a counterattack. Athenian attempts to break through the city's defenses failed, and in a disastrous night assault, they suffered heavy losses. Panic spread through the Athenian ranks, and leaders squabbled over whether to abandon the siege. Thrasymachus witnessed the chaos firsthand, his spirit broken as he saw comrades falling around him. Damon, too, realized the campaign was doomed. He resolved to survive, even if it meant abandoning the pride that had led them there. Chapter 5. The Retreat and Disaster. Finally, the Athenians attempted to retreat, only to find themselves trapped by the Syracusan army. Forced to march inland, they faced relentless attacks, exhaustion, and dwindling supplies. Many were killed or captured. Thrasymachus barely escaped, haunted by the sight of his fallen friends. Damon, captured and forced into hard labor, cursed the expedition that had led to such ruin. The great Athenian force was shattered, with few survivors making it back to Athens to tell of the horrors they endured. The dream of conquering Sicily had turned into a nightmare. Conclusion: reflections on hubris and defeat. The news of the defeat sent shockwaves through Athens, casting a dark shadow over the city's future. Thrasymachus, one of the few survivors, returned a changed man, haunted by the events in Sicily. He reflected on the arrogance that had led Athens to overreach, blinded by the allure of glory and power. The expedition became a cautionary tale for generations, a reminder of the perils of unchecked ambition. In the year 415 BCE, Athens, at the peak of its power, embarked on an ambitious campaign to Sicily. Led by prominent generals, Athens believed they could easily conquer Syracuse and bring Sicily under their control. However, due to a series of strategic miscalculations, internal divisions, and fierce resistance, the expedition ended in a devastating loss, marking a turning point in the Peloponnesian War. This story follows three Athenians: Thrasymachus, a young soldier, Damon, a veteran sailor, and Alcibiades, the charismatic general who convinced Athens to launch the campaign. Their experiences illustrate the hubris, chaos, and ultimate tragedy that befell Athens in Sicily. Detailed story plan and sample text. Introduction. Approximate 500 to 800 words. The narrative opens in the Athenian assembly, where Alcibiades, an ambitious and persuasive general, presents his vision for the Sicilian expedition. Athens is at the height of its power, and Alcibiades argues that conquering Sicily will ensure their dominance. Despite warnings from cautious statesmen like Nicias, the assembly votes to proceed. Sample text. The assembly hall echoed with the fervent speeches of Athenian statesmen. Alcibiades stood at the center, radiating charisma and confidence as he addressed the citizens. "Imagine it, fellow Athenians," he declared, his voice filling the hall. "Sicily, the key to wealth, resources, and victory. Syracuse is ripe for the taking, and with it, we secure our position as rulers of the Greek world." Nicias, an older and more cautious statesman, rose to speak against the plan. "Conquering Sicily is no easy task. We risk overextending ourselves, leaving Athens vulnerable." But the crowd was enthralled by Alcibiades' vision of glory. Thrasymachus, a young and ambitious soldier, cheered along with the others. The people had made up their minds. The expedition would go forward. Chapter 1. Setting sail to conquer. Approximate 800 to 1,000 words. The massive fleet of ships leaves Athens amid celebrations. Thrasymachus, excited by the prospect of glory, exchanges words with Damon, a seasoned sailor who harbors doubts about the mission's feasibility. They sail with high spirits, convinced of their inevitable success. Sample text. As the Athenian fleet prepared to depart, the docks buzzed with energy. Thrasymachus looked around at the vast array of ships, each adorned with the proud insignia of Athens. He could hardly contain his excitement. "This is it," he said, grinning at Damon, who adjusted the ropes with practiced hands. "Sicily awaits." Damon, however, responded with a grim smile. "Young one, don't let pride blind you. Sicily is no small endeavor. We are sailing into unknown waters." But Thrasymachus merely laughed. "We are Athens. Nothing can stand in our way." The fleet launched, and the soldiers cheered as they sailed toward what they believed would be certain glory. Chapter 2. Early successes and growing doubts. Approximate 1,000 to 1,200 words. Upon arriving in Sicily, the Athenians achieve a few initial victories, capturing small towns and building their confidence. However, the generals face logistical challenges as they realize Syracuse is more fortified than anticipated. Nicias warns of the difficulties ahead, while Alcibiades, recalled to Athens due to political disputes, leaves the expedition's leadership in disarray. Sample text. The Athenians' arrival in Sicily was marked by swift victories. Thrasymachus fought eagerly, feeling invincible as his fellow soldiers cheered each conquest. Yet Damon grew increasingly uneasy. Supplies were depleting quickly, and the news from Syracuse suggested they were far more fortified than expected. One evening, Nicias summoned the officers, his tone grave. "We may have underestimated Syracuse. We lack the resources for a prolonged siege, and without reinforcements, our position is vulnerable." Thrasymachus overheard the murmurs of doubt, but he brushed them aside. They were Athenians, after all, destined to conquer. But as he looked to Damon, he saw the worry in the older man's eyes, and for the first time he felt a pang of uncertainty. Chapter 3. The Siege of Syracuse. Approximate 1,000 to 1,200 words. The Athenians attempt to lay siege to Syracuse, building walls and fortifications around the city. But the Syracusans, under the guidance of the Spartan general Gylippus, mount a fierce defense. The siege drags on, resources dwindle, and the morale among Athenian soldiers begins to decline as disease and hunger take hold. Sample text. The Athenian forces erected walls, trapping Syracuse from both land and sea. Days turned to weeks, and the initial zeal of the soldiers faded. Thrasymachus, once so full of pride, now trudged through the mud, his armor heavy and his spirit waning. Damon looked around at the camp, seeing men huddled together, shivering and weakened. This is no longer a fight of warriors, Thrasymachus.